What up, everybody? I'm Andrew. Um, I am the co-creator of this channel. You may have seen Grace's video last week. Um, and I definitely encourage you guys to watch that. Definitely a lot of good information and good perspective in there. At least good viewpoints to look at. Always an important thing to consider. So anyway, one thing you're going to notice real quick about this channel is that we are here to talk about injustice. We're here to talk about advocating for equality, because that is definitely a hot button issue in especially recent months, but really just for decades, centuries even. So I feel like I want to go ahead and make my first video a good foundation for us. Like, we're going to talk about equality and privilege and being allies and everything, so we need to get some ground terms established. So first and foremost, what is privilege? Privilege is something of value that one group has that another group does not, simply by belonging to a group, either as an unearned advantage or an unearned entitlement. Simply put, it's extra benefits, advantages, and rights and immunities that you get simply for identifying a certain way rather than a different way. And there are many groups in our country that get to enjoy that privilege. That is, white people, that is straight people, that's cis people, men, Christians, you could even argue. Let me hear your thoughts about that in the comments below. Able-bodied people, and there's many other groups, but, we don't have time to list all of those, do we? So it's definitely important to recognize when you have privilege. I am very well aware of the fact that I have white privilege. I am very aware that I have male privilege. I am aware that I have able-bodied privilege. I'm aware that I have cis privilege. That is definitely the most important thing you can do. Recognize when you have a privilege, because that is the first step to being able to help or even have a chance at helping any of these issues. Recognizing where your privileges are and recognizing where other people do not get that privilege is definitely important to consider in helping people, being able to recognize what problems are there. Anywho, so along with privilege, I typically associate this next thing with people with privilege. Allyship. If you're an ally, it basically means that you're a person who supports, empowers, stands up for, or uplifts other groups or other people. And again, I do typically associate that with privilege. It's kind of hard to really say you're an ally for your own community, because that just sounds... You're not so much an ally for your own community, you're trying to help yourself, you're helping your own group out. That's not... Allyship kind of, to me, implies a little bit more of you are not part of that oppressed group. You're part of the people that are considered the oppressors. I consider myself an ally to Black people and people of color. I consider myself an ally to women, but that's because I am neither of those. But I don't consider myself an LGBT ally, because it's my community. It's part of my identity. It's more self-serving, honestly, if you're helping yourself, But anyway, that's not the point. What I want to get into is, what can we, or what can you as allies do? The first and foremost, the most important thing you can definitely do is listen to the oppressed group. You can't even hope to speak properly on any of the issues that affect different communities if you don't listen to them and what those perspectives are. That is the most important thing. Recognize that the whole reason that, people of color, women, LGBT people, the reason that we are protesting and fighting and all these other things is because we're not being listened to. So that is what you have to do. You have to listen. the way to combat somebody not being heard is to hear them. First and foremost, I can't explain it any better than that. Um, Closely associated is amplify those voices. Don't just listen to them, amplify them, share them, spread them. Don't speak over people, don't speak for people, speak up for people. Like, speak up for the LGBT community. Don't say the LGBT community thinks this. Like, you're not part of the community. You don't know what we think. And also, not everybody in these communities thinks the same thing, you know? That's an important thing to consider. Not everybody thinks the exact same. Not everybody in a community thinks the exact same. So yes, maybe your one or two, friends that are in a certain group may think that, but that's not necessarily the viewpoint of everybody. There are honestly like BLM activists that other people at BLM are like, yeah, he's doing too much because different perspectives, different strokes for different folks. But I cannot stress this enough. Amplify voices. Don't try to talk to me about my Don't try to talk to me about my oppression when you haven't been oppressed because of the things that I can get oppressed for. Don't try to talk to a black person about black oppression. If you're not black, like you don't know what that's like. Like I'm not gonna try to preach black oppression to a black person because I have never been oppressed because of the color of my skin. I am the majority in America because America just loves straight rich white men. um, but okay, those are things obviously, but there are other minor things you can also do to help. Not even minor, they're big things. Um, Donate and sign petitions. I cannot stress that enough. Please donate and sign the petitions. You've seen people posting all over TikTok, people posting all over Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go sign the petition in my bio. Go sign the petition in the comments below. Go sign this petition that I'm posting right here. Like, do that, please do that. That's how we know that. That's how petitions are there basically to say all of these people think that this policy or this event was wrong, could have been prevented, blah blah blah, whatever the case may be. You see all these people like sharing petitions, justice for Breonna Taylor. I have signed. I can't even tell you how many I've signed for those. Like I'm getting my voice out there. It's a subtle way, but it's getting your voice out there. Also, along with donating, please be careful about what you're donating to because there are some things that do try to profit, try to profit off of these issues. Or there are some that like it may go to a website that's gonna disperse these donations to different charities, but they may not necessarily go to the thing that you donated on. You may have signed a change.org petition for justice for Breonna Taylor, but the fund that you send in there may not necessarily go to a case that's meant to help her. It may go to some general issue going around. So beware. Like, but if it's obviously it's a charity that directly says these funds are going to go here, donate there, please. This one I also cannot stress enough. Do your own research. Google is free. Stop asking people in different communities to speak up on issues. Like, it's not our job. It's not my job to talk about LGBT issues or problematic LGBT individuals. That's not my job. It's not a black person's job to constantly keep talking about things like AAVE. It's not their job to keep talking about perspectives about Breonna Taylor or other people of color that have made the news lately. Like, it's not our job to speak on that. You can do your own research, especially if it's if you look around, you're going to find real quick there are a lot of people that have spoken on these issues already. Find those people. Like, find those instead of asking new people to speak on it. The perspectives are out there. Find them. Next, spread or analyze literature carefully. And that goes for all kinds of literature. That can be news sources because obviously news sources have their own biases. I'm going to be looking for this thing I saw that was talking about like the leanings of different news sources because there are some that are more objective, but then there are also some that have clear right leanings, clear left leanings. Like, so you'll notice that. I'm going to link that below somewhere, when I find it. But that can also go for novels. Like, I love The Help. It's a good book, good message, but it also definitely perpetuates that white savior trope that's pretty detrimental. So it's just being able, like, you can still enjoy it, but it's definitely, consider that aspect of it. Like, consider that there are those different biases still present. But then once you analyze your literature, spread the good info. Like, if there's something that has been backed up by like 6 different news sources, those are probably the facts. Spread those. Like, even if you have to just pull the facts out of the things and not necessarily share the article, you can still share the information. Like, that can just simply make the Facebook post talking about, like, hey, this information is. Next, get involved. And when I say get involved, there are definitely ways you can get involved. That can be simply going out to that can be posting, sharing petitions, and going to protests. Those are all ways you can get involved, but definitely don't sit back. Like, there are many different lanes of protesting and sparking change. You don't have to occupy all the lanes, but you should occupy one of them. And that can just be the passing information on social media. That can be sharing those petitions. That can be creating petitions. That can be going out into the protests. And by the way, protests are still happening around the country. They're definitely not as many as there were back in May and June, but there are definitely protests still happening. Go find them if they're in your area, please. Um, but I also get it. Other obligations that you can't get out of that are at the same time. That's still where the social media warriors can still come in handy. Next, speak up and speak out. I can't stress that part enough. Again, amplify voices, but you can still throw your own in there. Throw your own in there, but make sure it's still well founded. Like, don't just try to share information. Make sure you get the perspectives first. But we definitely want to hear your voice. We definitely want to know that you're listening. We definitely want to hear that we want to know that you're there. So please speak up, speak out. Next, learn from your mistakes. Everybody has a past. Everybody has a past. Some people grow up in a racist family and they kind of grew up with those values, but then as they get older, they get exposed to more people of color. As they get older, they get exposed to more, black people. As they get older, they get exposed to other people that can give those different perspectives for you. So learn from those mistakes. You can grow up being homophobic, but then you get around a bunch. You throw yourself around some other LGBT people. Perspectives can change because you start seeing, hey, this isn't actually as bad as I was always led to believe. Please, I can't stress this enough. Normalize changing your opinion when presented with new information. Like, it's simple. Change your perspectives when you get new information. Next, I know you've heard this. It's not enough to not be racist. You have to be anti-racist. That's true, and that goes for really any oppressed group, really. Like, it's not enough to just not be homophobic yourself, but you have to speak out against homophobia when you see it. Like, you may not necessarily be homophobic yourself, but you're sure not saying anything when this guy over here is, gay bashing. You may not be racist yourself, but you have sure stayed silent during all the discussions about BLM. You may, not necessarily be a misogynist, but you're also not saying that this person is wrong for doing whatever to a woman. You're sure not saying these things are wrong. And that's why we're saying silence is compliance. Like, to be silent is to be complicit. Like, because at the end of the day, if you're not speaking out against it, you might as well be speaking for it, because you're sure not trying to shut it down if it's happening. Anyway, let's just move forward. Next, recognize your own biases. Again, everybody has a past. Recognize that you do have biases, because the first step, they say this when you're in a 12-step program. The first step is to admit that you have a problem. The first step is to admit that there's a problem. Recognize that there is a problem. Only after you recognize that there is a problem can you hope to reverse it, or can you hope to change it. So you may not necessarily be racist, but you may keep your kids a little closer in certain neighborhoods. Like, it's a bias. It's a bias. You may not necessarily be trying to be racist, but you you still have that bias in there. So once you recognize that you do have that, you can try to reverse that. You can try to change your perspective and get yourself out of that biased mindset. Last thing I want to say, and I can't stress this enough either, let yourself be uncomfortable. Let yourself be uncomfortable. If you are kind of uncomfortable around black people, throw yourself in a room full of black people. If you're uncomfortable around LGBT people, go to a pride fest. Like, you got to force yourself to be uncomfortable. They say diamonds form under pressure. Pressure makes a diamond. So you got to throw yourself in a situation where you're uncomfortable. Only then will you hope to get those changes that you need to get the ball rolling. So that's just what I want to leave you guys with. Just make sure that you are spreading love, recognizing where your oppression is, or where your biases are, and listen and amplify the voices of these people that are saying that stuff's not right with them. Like, listen to the LGBT community when they say homophobia is real. Listen to the black community when they say racial oppression is real. Listen to disabled people when they say ableism is a real thing. Like, listen to these people. They know it firsthand. We know what we're talking about firsthand. So I cannot stress this enough. Be active. Do not be passive. Do not just sit idly by. Do something. So I just want to leave you guys on this. Obviously, this channel is going to start off pretty rough. Everything is rough starting out, but we definitely hope you guys will continue to support us, or we hope you will pass our channel on to your friends, your family. Please check out our Facebook page. We want you to be able to feel heard here too, because we want this to be a safe space. We do want this to be a safe space where we can spread love and encourage equality. So obviously, not everyone's going to agree with everything we say. Not everybody's going to agree with the topic that we talked about, but we still want you to be heard. We just also want you to be kind and be courteous and be respectful in the comments. Like, please do not go in here and start throwing around slurs, start using personal attacks. Please don't do that. We want you to be heard. We want your opinion to be out there. That's the whole point of this. We want different voices to be heard. But it's still far from okay if you're going to be hateful in the process. It's not what we're about here. And so, obviously, we're only two people. We're only two voices. We're only two perspectives. So please debate amongst yourselves in the comments. But again, be respectful. Be kind. So with that, I'm going to leave you on this. Be kind, spread love, and do not stay silent on the issues. And with that, we will see you next week, probably with Grace's video. Bye-bye, everybody.